Welcome to Sunday Night Prime. I'm Father Andrew Apostoli, your host for today's program, which is going to be a wonderful program. Before we get into it, I want to mention if you have any questions, comments, even suggestions for topics you'd like to see on Sunday Night Prime, please send us your emails. Send them to sundaynightprime@EWTN.com. I'll repeat that, sundaynightprime@EWTN.com. You know, we are living in the time of the new evangelization, and it's so important to spread the gospel. And there are certain basic values that need to be repeated over and over again. They're so fundamental to the Christian life. For example, prayer. You know, we need to be reminded to pray. Padre Pio used to say, prayer opens the heart of God. We need to be reminded about life, its sacredness, and how we have to foster a respect for life from conception to natural death and the dignity of motherhood. And finally, we need to be reminded of Our Lady, her powerful place in the plan of God. In this particular time we live in, there's no doubt in my mind that this is an age of Our Lady in a very special way. And so those who promote this message in the new evangelization are doing a great service to the church. And our special guest tonight is someone who certainly has been a great promoter of the new evangelization. We might call her an evangelizer to this age. And it's my pleasure to introduce our special guest today, Donna Maria Copper O'Boyle. Donna Marie, welcome.
Thank you so much, Father Andrew.
It's a pleasure to have you on the program. Our title for this program is The Miraculous Medal, Mary's Channel of Grace. Mm-hmm. So, Donna Marie, you know, you're no stranger to EWTN. I'm sure that a good number of our viewers know you already, but there's some probably may not, and some who'd like to know a little bit about your background. Could you share a little bit?
Sure. Well, I'm a mother of 5 on earth and 3 in heaven. I came from a close-knit Catholic family. I'm the 7th of 8 children. So I grew up in the hustle and bustle of a big Catholic family, so I love that. And grew up and married and had a lot of kids and spent my time raising little saints to heaven. I just felt that that was my divine calling, the vocation of motherhood. And then I was so passionate about, you know, spreading the encouragement to other mothers, knowing what it's like to raise children in our culture. So that's why you see me on EWTN in my mom shows, to try to help the moms in the trenches and moms of every age and stage.
Mm-hmm. And you know, that's so important, Donna, because today, you know, with this liberation, women's liberation, so much of that secularization has taken away the dignity from women of motherhood. I mean, the greatest thing a woman could do is to be a mother. Naturally speaking, of course, to be a saint is the most important thing of all. But to be a mother, to bring new life into the world, you create, you know, you're cooperating with God Himself. You're kind of imitating Our Lady who brought the Son of God into the world. So I thank you for, you know, bringing that message, you know, to so many women who need to, you know, be reinforced in their conviction of motherhood, and maybe some of them to be reminded.
Absolutely, because while we're in the trenches of the mothering and the culture, the secular culture is, you know, bombarding us with all kinds of mixed messages about how we're to be as a woman, you know, demands for perfection in the household or in the workplace or whatever. So we have all this coming at us. So those poor moms are just trying to raise their children the way they know best, but they don't get that affirmation and encouragement from our culture. So we need to, you know, support one another, one mom to another, like Mother Teresa did, one person to another, just in that love that you show and that encouragement. And then God had His plan to send it out through EWTN and through books and talks as well. Too.
So, well, thank you so much, because it is a message that is so timely and so important. Now, I know, Donna, you had a faith journey of your own, didn't you? Could you share a little bit? Because you were sharing with me before the program, and it's so powerful.
Well, I don't know how this happened except by the hand of God. You know, that Father Hardin ended up in my personal journey, my spiritual journey. I was there trying to mind my own business, raising my children, and I came across Father Hardin, who became my friend and spiritual director, and later on the godfather for my daughter, Mary Catherine. So he guided me, and he was, as you know, I'm sure, very holy person. I had no doubt that he was a living saint, and so I felt so honored and blessed to know him and to be guided by him. And really, one saint led me to another, Father Hardon, whom, you know, I learned so much from, about the heroic virtues and about a call to holiness, that we're all called to holiness. And he helped me in my vocation of motherhood, you know, to find that, you know, I could work out my salvation in the walls of my own home, you know, between the pots and pans and diaper changes and sibling rivalry and all the stuff that we do as a mom, you know, that's how we work out our salvation, by being obedient to our state of life. So not everyone could be a Father Hardon or a Mother Teresa, or, you know, we all have our divine callings. And mothers, for mothers, it's to find that within her home, and to work out her salvation within her home. And so Father Hardon ended up leading me to Mother Teresa. So here I knew one saint, and now he was leading me to another. So I just kind of kept those blessings quiet for a number of years. I didn't want to go around saying, you know, I know Mother Teresa, and she writes to me, and Father Hardon. And,
it could become a little bit of a vanity.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, I did share it with people that I knew personally, and priests and friends, but they were part of my life for some reason. I never knew why. I just accepted those blessings. But I learned so much from Father Hardon and Mother Teresa. And then many years later, after I was raising my children for a number of years, I felt inspired to put those blessings into words, to express in books and talks and on EWTN, to help others. You know, I didn't know anything about that at the time, that I would be sharing this later on.
It's kind of like what Mother Teresa used to say about how God provides, you know, for her work.
Yes.
And you remember she had that pot on the stove, and she offered a little prayer to Jesus. She said, Jesus, if you promise me this pot will never go empty, I promise you I'll never let it be full. So in other words, well, the blessing God gives us, all those blessings have to in turn be shared. That's right.
That's right. Exactly. We can't hide our lights under a bushel. But there's a time and a place. You know, God wanted me to focus on the children then, and to store up that within my heart and soul, what I was learning, and to, you know, even write on paper. I would write down notes about what I'd share later on. And then, you know, in God's providence, that's what happened.
Yeah. Well, you know, when you're learning from saintly people, both Father John Hardon, his cause is open for canonization, and there are many, many people whose lives he has deeply touched, and who feel, you know, that he is worthy of canonization. Of course, it's God who has to approve that by working miracles and so on. And of course, Mother, she's already blessed, and we're just waiting for the day that she will be proclaimed a saint. What a real prophet or prophetess, if you want to call her that, that she was for our times. You know, she really gave the message of life and so on. And then you began then to write. You know, I'm surprised how many books you've written. It's a pleasant surprise to hear.
Keep writing.
Keep writing, As God keeps giving to you, you keep giving to His people. Yeah. How did you ever know you had a little gift or desire to write? Or?
Even as a child, I loved to express myself, whether it be in art or writing. But I wasn't planning to be an author. You know, I did write pro-life pieces, and but I was too busy raising all my kids. And so actually it was, I think we're going to talk about this later on, when I was put still on a complete bed rest during a pregnancy, that a lot of inspiration came to me to write books. And then it just started going. And
and of course your own experience as mother. We draw from our experiences, and you know, you said before, you become you grow in holiness right in the house. You know, the saints always assure us it doesn't take a whole lot of great things. You don't have to do a whole lot of great things, but you have to do the ordinary things you do every day with a lot of love.
Yes, absolutely.
That's the key.
And that's the message of so many of the saints. Mother Teresa, Saint Therese of Lisieux, the little way of love. You know, to put so much love into what you do. So instead of grumbling and complaining about certain things that annoy you or that are difficult or challenging, to try to see it, to pray for the grace, to see it as an opportunity for grace, that you can grow in holiness, but not only you, your spouse, your children, because of your response to that situation,
That's right. You bring, through living in such a way that you see Christ every day in your life. You see the hand of God. One of the beautiful Beatitudes Christ taught us was, "Blessed are the pure of heart,
Yes.
for they shall see God." I always used to think, well, that means when we get to heaven, we'll see him. Well, we certainly will in the beatific vision. But you also begin to see him in this life.
Right.
You see the hand of God at work. You see his wisdom, his goodness. Even when some sufferings come along, we see that those, if we accept them like Jesus accepting the cross, accept it with Jesus, we begin to see that God is working wonderful things.
Yes, absolutely.
Because you did mention that it was during that troubled pregnancy you had that mother
Yes.
gave you
That she gave me the blessed Miraculous Medal that I'm wearing right now during that pregnancy, yes.
Yes. So that was a real, very important turning point. What are you doing currently now on EWTN?
Well, I have 2 shows for moms. The first one is called Everyday Blessings for Catholic Moms, and they're about like a 5-minute burst of inspiration. You can really cover a lot in 5 minutes, actually, all different facets of motherhood, and there are 50 of those out right now. And they air usually every day, you see them, but there's also 25 of them on a DVD. And I just filmed 5, it's called a mini-series, 5-part mini-series called Catholic Moms Cafe. And I talk to a guest on each show, and we delve into all kinds of scenarios of Catholic mothering. So all kinds of situations, how to handle them with grace, how to call on the saints for, the Catholic tools to navigate the vocation of motherhood. So that has not aired yet, but hopefully in the near future that will be out, and we're hoping people will like it.
Oh, very good. Oh, I'm sure they will, Donna. I'm sure they will. You have a nice way to communicate the message of God.
Thank you.
What is it? Somebody said, "I'm only a pen. God is the writer, but you got to have a pen to write."
Right.
So.
Mother Teresa said, "I'm just a little stubby pencil in God's hand." Exactly.
Yeah. So, well, we need to continue to get that message out to God's people, and again, the values that you touch upon are so fundamental, but so there's so much. Distortion, we used to have a very clear picture of motherhood,
Right.
Remember, in America, we used to say it's as American as motherhood, baseball and apple pie.
Yes, that's right.
Today, they don't say that.
No.
They say, very, very sad because of the rejection of the beautiful vocation of motherhood, because of the rejection of life. And I know Mother Teresa was... So she spoke out so strongly, didn't she?
Yes.
She said it's a terrible thing that a society has to destroy their own young children in order that people can live the way they want. She said that's the greatest poverty, she said.
Yes, it is.
It's so sad to see. So your series then on EWTN, and that's a wonderful thing to be doing. Now you've also, I know you had written several books. Again, I was quite surprised. How many in total?
Well, so far, there are 16.
16.
Yes.
So far.
And more I have some more coming out. I'm working away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what that feeling is like. I have so many in my head, but they're not down on paper yet.
Right, exactly.
So many things you'd like to say, so many things you'd like to do, but time seems to be the struggle there. And I know when I worked on my book on Fatima, I had to use a machine that you speak into and it types,
yes.
but it didn't always get the words right.
It doesn't.
And in fact, when I had to say the name Jacinta, and you know how many times with the Fatima I say Jacinta, I would get just into.
Oh, that's funny.
And I'd have to go back. I would shout at the machine 4 or 5 times Jacinta, but never got it straight. So, but I think, as time goes on, they'll probably work on those machines and make them a little bit more accurate. But I'm hoping to do a few more books myself. But it is a great part of evangelization.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So important.
Well, Donna, we're going to have to take a little break now. Don't leave us. We have some wonderful things to be sharing with you. This is going to be a wonderful program. Welcome back to Sunday Night Prime. I'm Father Andrew Apostoli, your host for today's wonderful program. And our special guest is Donna Maria Copper O'Boyle. And Donna Maria, you've been sharing so much. You are a gifted writer. God has really given you a great talent there. Let's talk about some of those books. I know you wanted to maybe elaborate on a couple of them. Would you do that for us?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Father. Well, as I said earlier, I started writing and enjoyed it, but I wasn't planning to be an author. And then when I was pregnant for my 5th living child, because I have 3 that were miscarried, I had a heart condition and a severe hemorrhage, so I had to be on complete bed rest. So the doctor was sure that I was going to lose the baby. I had already lost 3 before that. And he said, you're having a miscarriage, but I need you to lay down, have complete bed rest, and we'll check on the health of the baby. So I just did what I was supposed to do. And I prayed, but I wanted to hang on to hope. I was thinking, Lord, maybe this baby isn't going to be lost. So I prayed, and I sent word to Mother Teresa to please pray for me. And she sent me this blessed Miraculous Medal. And she had given me others throughout the years, but during that pregnancy, that one came to me from her, so I wanted to put it right on, and I've never taken it off.
Wonderful.
And she said, say a simple prayer, Mary, Mother of Jesus, be a mother to me now, and she will take care of you. She's taken care of so many others, she'll also take care of you. And so I just hung on to that hope of, whatever God wanted for that baby. And the funny thing is, during that pregnancy, not only was I hanging on to hope, praying and trying to run the household in that horizontal position of either laying on my couch or my bed. I had 4 other children running around, kind of hanging around near me and drawing me pictures and bringing me something to eat. So it was a different kind of mothering during that pregnancy, but I had to, commit myself to save the baby, to be completely still. But God had another idea as well, because when He put me still, it gave me the time to be thinking about a pregnancy, not just a series of, the baby growing and aches and pains and morning sickness and this and that, but a beautiful time to pray for that baby, a 9-month novena.
Wow.
9 months, that number 9, it came to me. And it was like, oh my goodness, this is a 9-month novena, this pregnancy. So I just wrote, I scribbled on pieces of paper. I didn't have a computer, and I just wrote, how to make this into sort of a journal for an expectant mother, but not even knowing it would be a book one day, just writing. And it just all poured out of me during that pregnancy. And I wrote so much more, too, for mothers. And I sent these things to Mother Teresa, and she had her spiritual director go over them. And eventually, years later, this book came out, Prayerfully Expecting, a 9-month novena for mothers-to-be, and Mother Teresa wrote the foreword, and my daughter Chaldea illustrated it, pictures of my babies when they were little. So, and it's a journal, it's a prayer journal, and it's a novena for that expectant mother. So I had no idea when God put me on that complete bed rest that I would not only be trying to preserve the life of that baby, who, by the way, is now 22 years old, and named Mary Catherine Ann, Mary
wonderful.
After the Mother of God, Catherine after Catherine Labouré, who received the instructions from the Blessed Mother to make the medal, and Anne, Mary's mother. So God had His plan, and He just wanted me to follow it and be obedient to taking care of myself and the baby by being still. While I was still, the writings came out. That was when I started writing books.
Wow. See, there's where a perfect example, Donna, of where the cross, the suffering, which was your being confined to being still and lying in bed, or as you say, on the couch there, whatever. That cross, that deprivation, so to speak, became the moment that God was filling your mind and heart and stirring you, and I'm sure the Holy Spirit was deeply at work there, and of course with Mother, I'm sure her prayers, would be supporting you, and her wonderful encouragement. I had the privilege of knowing Mother myself, and some wonderful things that she said, and I think just kind of knowing her was a thing. I cannot ever forget the time I had said Mass for Mother when she came to the United States, and she was at the convent in Harlem. They have I
stayed there one
Did
weekend,
you?
in Harlem one weekend.
Yeah, well, they have that's where they take in the homeless women.
Yes, I stayed in the shelter there.
Did you?
As a married woman. I stayed there as a homeless person one weekend.
Very good, very good. But I'll never forget this Mass. After the Mass was over, she came into the sacristy, and I was taking the vestments off. She had the biggest grin on her face, and she reached into her pocket, and she took out a calling card, and she said, "Father," with that little accent, "Father, to have one of my business cards."
Yes, I know.
And I said to him, who's going to think of Mother with a business card? I think that's why she had that. But it was that beautiful saying, the fruit of prayer, the fruit of silence is prayer, the fruit of prayer is faith. The fruit of faith is love. The fruit of love is service. And the fruit of service is peace. Yeah. And that was Mother Teresa's business. So I never forget the inspiration that she gave with that, But you wrote a number of other books, Donna. Tell us about another.
Sure. Well, recently I wrote Catholic Mom's Cafe. It's a 5-minute retreat for every day of the year. And this, it focuses on faith, hope, and love, the theological virtues that we're all given at baptism, but I think we forget about them as we're growing up, or we don't use them as much as we should. And I was thinking, mothers are so busy. They're raising their kids, and they're putting up with so much stuff, worrying about, are they doing it right? And they just have a lot to take care of in the course of a day. So sometimes, even though they might know in their heart that there's a call to holiness, there's a call to come closer to God, sometimes they just hit the ground running in the morning because they're trying to figure out, take care of this one and that one and everything that they have to do. So where do they find that time to pray? They need to carve out some time. So I thought, and I'm always talking about in my talks and my books, to make sure you get on your knees first thing in the morning or even from bed and pray a morning offering. Get your day started off right. So even though you get busy, you've said that prayer, you've offered all of your prayers, works, joys, and sufferings in advance of your day to our Lord, praying that He'll unite them to the Holy Mass and to His sufferings, to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. And so you just, in that simple prayer, you give your day and everything that happens. So I thought I should write a book to just give that mom like a 5-minute kitchen retreat, a retreat that she could do right at her kitchen table. The kids could be around her. She can just open it up, read the verse, read the prayer, pray the act of faith, hope, or love, whatever it is for that day. So it only takes her a couple of minutes. And if she doesn't have time in the morning, just to have it nearby so she can open it up. And I have little stories, interesting stories of when I was raising my kids, and just something, little nuggets, little things to savor throughout the day that have to do with faith, hope, or love. And then the mom starts thinking, that's right, I do have this virtue growing in my heart. And I give suggestions how you can grow these virtues with prayer and with acts of faith, hope, and love. So I just wanted moms to have that kind of nourishment and just a couple of minutes of time to get that going.
That's so important. It's so practical, Donna, because when I know in terms of the Holy Fathers, Pope Benedict, now Pope Francis, talking about the new evangelization and saying that we have to be living it. He said it's not enough just to hear the theology of it, but it has to end up in a living faith.
Yes.
And that means our everyday life. So you're sanctifying the ordinary, and that's the
Yes.
way the world is going to grow holy.
That's right.
People don't realize it, but if they're especially living in the state of grace, that's so important.
Mm-hmm.
Stay in the friendship of God, and if you're not in it, get back to it.
That's
Good
right.
confession
Go to confession.
helps. Yeah, and what's so important is that a person in the state of grace, with their heart being in union with God, that love union between God and the soul, brings more love into the world. You see,
Right.
and each person's. Well, St. Paul talks about that when he said we're like all members of the mystical body, and he said when one member is healthy, all the other members around it get healthy.
Right.
They share in that. So your
Yes.
work is really encouraging mothers to become saints, right? In
thank
the
you.
domestic church, as you
That's
called
right,
it.
in the domestic church. And all of those other mothers within their domestic churches, they are a shining example to their family and to their neighbors and their community. Just like Mother Teresa met each person that came to her and took care of their needs. Each person that we take care of in the family, as we raise these little saints and work things out, work out our little squabbles or whatever it is, those opportunities for grace and to use forgiveness and love and tenderness, right, in the heart of the home is so amazing. People think that nothing's going on there, nothing noteworthy, but amazing things are happening and hearts are transformed right
Yes.
in the heart of the home.
Yes, yes. And but the grace that flows, huh? And the
Yes.
home is really where hearts are touched
Yes.
so
That's
profoundly.
right. And it's sad for the home, the people who don't really have very much structure or love in their home, where there's a lot of strife. It's very sad and so we could try to make up for that,
Yeah.
to our neighbors and our community members by being that loving person, that smile, that offering of something, a good, nice word. As Mother Teresa said, simple things could really help someone else who's lacking in love,
They become evangelists,
Yes.
and they don't even know it. Well, we have time for one more book, and I think you
Okay.
have a wonderful book you were going to share with us too.
Sure. Well, this is Mother Teresa and Me, 10 Years of Friendship, and the publisher chose that name. I wanted it to be kind of, I don't know, a little more humble or something like that, but they encouraged me to tell the whole story. The world needs it. They said, you need to just tell your part of that story too. So I tried to recount that first beautiful meeting with Mother Teresa when Father Hardin had told me about Mother in the convent, the sisters in Washington, D.C., in the home for the dying. And I took my family there to visit.
Yes.
And we didn't know Mother Teresa was even in the country at the time, but here she was at that convent. And we happened to go to the right Mass. That we were invited to go to a Mass. And we had a choice of 2 different Masses, and we happened to go to the one that Mother Teresa was at. And I recount in detail meeting her and the effect it had on me and my family, and how she gave us miraculous medals then too. And so I just tried to write about the lessons of love that I learned from her throughout the years. And I did share about 12 of the 22 letters she would later send me throughout that 10-year friendship. And I was able to meet with her on 12 more occasions, even privately, in some of the convents all in the United States. I never had to go to Calcutta to find the saint of the gutters. I found her right in our own affluent country. And she always preached that, love begins at home, and that Calcutta is all over the world for those who have eyes to see. So to find our own Calcuttas in our own families, neighborhoods, and communities, the people who are dying for love, starving for love, rather than starving for a piece of bread. Our poverty here in the United States is mostly a lack of love, and that's where we come in as evangelizers and Christians and people who want to serve that Jesus and the other, like Mother Teresa, live that gospel of Matthew. Whatever you do to the least of my brothers, you do to me. So that was her whole focus, satiating the thirst of Jesus on the cross and serving Jesus within the poor, the poorest of the poor.
And what you said, Donna, is so true. Sometimes people are more starving for just some love and attention, that somebody cares for them,
Right.
And recognizes that they are children of God too, can do more for them than even the food in their stomach, although the food is obviously very important.
Right.
Many times we begin with the food and end up
Yes.
trying to present
Exactly.
that message of love. But Mother had a great way of doing that, picking up people, the dying people in Calcutta off the streets there, and you know, and also the people who were really down and out, the lepers,
Yes,
you know, she
the
took care of
lepers,
them,
the
AIDS
orphans.
people, the orphans. So she was no stranger to suffering,
Right.
and yet she saw in each person, you know, she said, Jesus comes in the distressing disguise, poorest of the poor.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't forget those words.
I know.
That she
They're
said.
etched on my heart.
Yeah.
They like etched on my heart.
Yeah, and so a lot of times, you know, we're working with not only the corporal works of mercy, but also the spiritual works, and that's what builds a person up. Well, you know, Donna, we've got one more part of this program to do, and it's going to be a very important part. We're going to have to take our break right now, but we'll be right back, and you're going to hear a wonderful story about Our Lady's gift. Welcome back to Sunday Night Prime. I'm your host, Father Andrew Apostoli, and our very special guest, Donna Maria Copper O'Boyle, a wonderful evangelist. I'm going to call you an evangelist of the promoting God's message, and especially now we come to the most beautiful part of this program, I think, Mary's special gift and love. You've written a beautiful book, here on the Miraculous Medal, huh? Mm-hmm. The Miraculous Medal, Stories, Prayers, and Devotions. And this is a very special book. I've been reading it, Donna, and I have to say, it's been very hard for me to put it down. Oh. It's a beautiful story that we all need to be reminded of, because it's a story of God's love through his mother for all of her children, all of us. How did you come to write this book?
Well, it was just such an inspiration to write it. I just felt a real need to write about the Miraculous Medal. And I think it's because, you know, I always wore a Miraculous Medal on and off throughout my life. And I grew up, you know, like I said, in a big Catholic family. So it was part of our tradition, you know, to receive one as a gift or something. But it wasn't until Mother Teresa gave me the Miraculous Medal, you know, the ones before this, and then this one here that I never take off, that it started to take on a new meaning. You know, I always loved the Blessed Mother and prayed the Rosary on and off whenever I could as I grew up. And I always knew that she was so special in my life, and she always seemed to draw me back. You know, if I started to like kind of veer off the path or something, there was the Blessed Mother pulling me back. And so I always loved her, but then the Miraculous Medal sort of took on a deeper meaning coming from Mother Teresa, you know. So I don't know when it happened exactly, a few years back, I decided to start giving out blessed Miraculous Medals. I always carry a bunch with me on my purse or in my pocket.
Great. That's a good idea, huh?
Yeah, I always have them, and I always have at least a couple in my pocket of my dress or whatever I'm wearing. I just have them there, and I can always pull them out at the right time to give them to people on airplanes, a lot of times through my travels. Mm-hmm. A lot of the stories in that book you'll find in the last part of the book are about encounters with people through my travels and amazing things that have happened, of what they've said and how they've felt transformed by the Miraculous Medal. Mm-hmm. So because Mother Teresa gave out the medals, I just somehow took on that tradition of hers. I think it was after she died. I started giving them out. I've given out thousands upon thousands of medals. The only way I know how many, that it's in the thousands, is because I know how many I order and how many I've brought over to Rome, and some of them were, I was able to get on Pope John Paul II's tomb and Mother Teresa's bed at the convent where she stayed in Rome. Mm-hmm. So I was privileged to have them on there, and I would just pray, and then I would just give those medals out. I have some blessed by Pope Benedict and give those out. I've put some on Padre Pio's glove, so the medals by themselves are just very blessed and very special. They don't need to be on these other places, but I just had done that while I was there. So I started giving these medals out, and then I just thought that it would be great to have a book. I didn't see any modern day Miraculous Medal books, that were, encouraging this devotion to Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal. And I just felt I needed to write it. I just wanted to share the blessings, again, to share.
Yeah. See, I think sometimes, God raises up those who have the conviction of these, beautiful sacramental, like this Miraculous Medal,
Yes.
the gift that Our Lady gave us. It's people like yourself who have been deeply touched by it, who have the conviction in your heart. Well, I know how important this is.
Yes.
I know how many graces will come. Right. Well, let's get into the story so everyone knows the story. Would you want to share a little bit about the saint who received this message?
Oh, sure. Saint Catherine Labouré, first of all, was just Catherine. And she grew up in her family, and she was a hard worker. She lost her mother when she was little. And she immediately went to the Blessed Mother. When she thought no one was looking, she went into her parents' room and took a statue off the shelf, brought it to her heart and said, "Now you will be my mother." Like a couple of the other saints, Saint Teresa of Avila has done that as well. So she was drawn to the Blessed Mother, and she was very obedient to her state of life. She did everything she needed to do in her family until it came a time when she thought she was old enough to enter the seminary, as they called it, to become a sister. But there was, it's a long history that I do have in detail in this book. How Saint Vincent de Paul had his hand in guiding her.
She saw him, didn't she, in a dream?
She saw him in a dream.
And he told her that she would have a special mission.
And she kept that to herself for so many years. And years later, when she visited the sisters, she saw a picture on the wall. And she was like, "Who is that? He looks so familiar." And when she asked who it was, they said, "Why, that's St. Vincent de Paul, the founder." And she said, "Oh my goodness, she just really felt him pulling her to join, to become a sister." So she had to go through all kinds of challenges to get her father to let her go, to send her off with his blessing, because he wasn't happy about her leaving. And he had already lost the daughter to the convent, so he didn't want to lose another. Yeah. But she finally got his blessing, kind of half-hearted, but she did get it, and she went. And she was so thrilled to be able to enter the seminary for instruction.
Should mention the seminary, it means the convent.
It means
they called it the seminary.
Yes, the convent.
We're talking about a convent to make sure.
Right, I just wanted to be...
in our, yeah.
Exactly.
But that's what they called it back then, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And she entered the Daughters of Charity, also called sometimes the Sisters of Charity.
Yes.
St. Vincent de Paul founded them, and he also founded the Congregation of the Missions. Those are the Vincentian fathers.
Yes, exactly.
So, he was known as the Apostle of Charity. So that was a very, very holy man. He wasn't always very holy. He wasn't always very devout. In his younger years, he was more of a little bit of worldly priest. Then he got abducted by, I think, some Algerian pirates or something, held for ransom, and he escaped. And boy, he had a conversion after that.
Yeah, you see how sometimes it takes those really deep challenges, or to try to change our hearts.
That's right.
Right?
When you know your life is on the line.
Then you really pray.
That's right. That's right. Yes. So she entered. We know, and she entered there in Paris.
Yes, she entered in Paris, and she did everything she was supposed to do, and just wanted to be the best that she could, so she could please Jesus. And soon after she entered, things started happening.
Right. That's amazing.
And mystical things. She began to see Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament. She saw. She came in during the time of the novena for Saint Vincent de Paul. See, it was right after the French Revolution, and so much unrest, and the relics had been put into hiding. And so they were bringing out St. Vincent de Paul's relics. And so there was a big novena, a 9-day novena that she was able to participate in. But each night of the novena, after she went to the chapel to pray some more, she saw a vision of St. Vincent de Paul's heart. And she heard messages about what each one meant a certain thing. It's all in the book. And so she had to reveal that to a spiritual director. She couldn't keep it to herself. But of course she was sort of ridiculed a little bit, just forget about it,
Yeah, forget about it,
Father,
right.
Father told her, just forget about it. And I guess, with the saints, a lot of times they had to go through such scrutiny, and and how could she be believed? She just entered the convent, and all of this was happening. She kind of wished it wasn't happening because she just wanted to blend in and do what she was supposed to do.
That's right.
But that happened, and then later on, the amazing visits from our Blessed Mother.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if we're talking about that now or later.
Yeah, no. Let's go into those visits. I know you presented them very well. The 2 apparitions, didn't she?
Yes.
2 apparitions.
July 18th, I think it was in 1830, was the first time, and I explain that in great detail in the book, how she was awakened in the night by a child of radiant light, and the child told her. This was the eve of the feast of St. Vincent de Paul. So she had just learned more about him the night before from the Mother Superior. Went to bed with a little piece of the relic, and she actually ate a little piece of the relic.
Yeah, right.
Before. We're not saying that everybody should go around doing
don't do that.
But she had a special calling
Yeah.
to do this. And this little boy, she thought it was a little boy. Later she realized it was her guardian angel. Led her to the chapel and said, the Blessed Mother is waiting to see you. She was so excited, and she got dressed quickly and went to the chapel and waited. And no one showed up for like a moment. It probably seemed like an hour. And then all of a sudden, the Blessed Mother appeared to her and spoke with her. And she just threw herself on her lap and just rested her hands on her knees and looked up into the Blessed Mother's eyes and said that was the most incredible, beautiful moment in her whole life when she looked into the Blessed Mother's eyes. And Mary gave her a lot of words.
Yeah, and of course, she was sitting in that chair.
Yes.
And I had the privilege of touching that chair when I was in the convent there. They call it the Rue de Bac, meaning the street, the Bac.
The chapel.
And that's the convent there where the apparitions took place.
Yes.
Now, I know there was a very special special things that Our Lady said. Would you want to, maybe we could take a little description, right, from your book?
Yes.
Page.
Well, she was telling St. Catherine that she was very happy with the communities, the 2 communities, but that there was some things that needed to be changed, and she wanted them to work on that. The 2 communities, the sisters and the priests, the Vincenzans and the Daughters of Charity. And she also talked to Catherine about the great suffering in France and that there would be more, but the communities would be protected. But some might not, but others wouldn't be. And she was sad. Mary was sad while she was explaining this.
Yes.
But she also told Catherine, Sister Catherine as she was called then, now St. Catherine, that she was going to be entrusted with a great mission. But don't worry, I will give you all the graces you need. And you will be ridiculed, you will suffer, but I will give you every grace that you need. So she knew, Catherine knew she was going to get this mission. She didn't know what it was. She was there with the Blessed Mother for 2 hours. She didn't realize that time stood still for the time she felt the Blessed Mother was just speaking to her heart and stood before her. And then she faded away, and her guardian angel brought her to her room, and he faded away. And she couldn't go back, she couldn't sleep, and she then realized as soon as he faded away that was her guardian angel, who she had prayed to and asked that someday she might be able to see the Blessed Mother, if that was in God's providence for her. So then she just laid awake all night long. That was the first time, the first apparition. Then about 4 months later was when the Blessed Mother came to her when she was saying her prayers with the community. And
in the chapel,
in the chapel, yes. And she heard, in the first apparition, I do detail it, she heard a swishing of silk, and that was the Blessed Mother's, clothing. And so there she was 4 months later on November 27th, 1830, in the chapel with the sisters, and she heard that swishing sound, and she thought, it's the Blessed Mother again. And it was. And then she appeared in an apparition showing the medal, the Miraculous Medal, and giving her complete instructions about making the medal. And she showed the front and the back of the medal.
That medal is so significant, isn't it? Now we can take a look at that little description.
Okay, so the medals, so after this says the medals were made. So this is when the medals were finally made.
A lady had told her, have a medal made in the image of what she saw.
Exactly.
Now this describes it.
So the front side presents Mary in the glory of her Immaculate Conception, standing on a globe as the Queen of Heaven and Earth. Her feet are crushing the serpent, showing that Satan and all of his followers are helpless before Mary's power. Mary is an intercessor. The rays of light come from her hands to symbolize the gifts and graces coming through her intercession to all who ask for them. Around the rim is the invocation that Mary composed. O Mary, conceived without sin, pray for us who have recourse to thee.
Yes. So that was the front of the medal, huh?
Yes.
You know?
And then the reverse side of the medal presents Mary in her relationship to the church. There are no words, 2 hearts, an M, the letter M, and a cross intertwined with the M are shown with 12 stars around the edges. Mary told Sister Labouré that words were not needed. The M and the 2 hearts express enough. The back of the medal expresses that Mary is Queen and Intercessor, Mother of the Redeemer, but also our Mother who knows our sorrows. Mary is with us throughout the sorrows of our lives, and so the heart of Jesus wears a crown of thorns, and Mary's heart is pierced with a sword. The M intertwined with the cross expresses Mary at the foot of the cross of her Son. The 12 stars remind us of the 12 apostles, representing the entire church as it surrounds Mary. We are also reminded of the stars in St. John's vision, when a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. And that's from Revelation, of course.
Such a powerful medal. It says so much, doesn't it?
Yes,
huh?
it's rich in meaning. There's so much there.
Yeah, the crushing of the serpent. Well, that goes all the way back to Genesis.
Yes.
I'll put enmity between you and the woman, and she shall crush your head. You shall strike at her heel, but she will crush your head. So she has the power, because being the Mother of God, to destroy Satan's power, to block it.
Right.
And that's why we need to have recourse to her. Those rings. Why don't you explain a little bit? I think the people would enjoy.
Sure. We should mention the rings. Sister Catherine saw that on Mary's hands she had 3 rings on each finger, and her hands were down, and beautiful rings with gems and rays coming from her hands going down. And those rays, Mary said, were the graces flowing from her to help others. And she said, where you see the rings without the rays flowing, that's because people are forgetting to ask for the graces.
Remember to ask Our Lady. She has so many graces to bestow on us, doesn't she?
Yeah.
And she wants us to do it with trust.
With trust.
She said something I think that had come out in the message there too, and she had that ball, a golden ball in her hand, a globe. Yeah, and she said that represented all of us.
The world. First, St. Catherine saw her holding the globe and offering, and looking up and offering the globe. She was offering the world to God.
That was in the first apparition.
The first part of that apparition. The one we see on the medal it's really the second part of the apparition, because the engravers could only etch this picture on the medal, because the other was too difficult to engrave.
Yeah.
So she offers the globe to her Son, and then he grants the graces through Mary. That's why she's our mediatrix of grace. Right?
That's right. Yeah, and then the back has the hearts of Jesus and Mary. Well, the image was originally called the medal was originally called the Medal of the Immaculate Conception.
Yes.
But it soon became the Miraculous Medal. Could you
Right.
share with us some of the?
Sure.
I know you shared a beautiful story from Father Hardin.
Oh,
And then a
yes.
great conversion.
Yes. It was called it changed names because people would say, "Here, take this medal. It's miraculous." "Oh, here, take this medal. It's miraculous." And people started calling it the Miraculous Medal. But yes, about Father Hardin, I put his story in the book, and many others. And he told the story of a little boy he came upon when he was a chaplain at a hospital. And the boy had been in a coma for about 10 days already, and he was just there mostly to console the parents and to give his blessing. But as he left the room, he was thinking, wait a minute, the Vincenzans told me all about this miraculous medal, and maybe it's a good time to put this to use, to pray. So he asked for a miraculous medal in this Catholic hospital. And so it took them a while, but they found one, and they found a blue ribbon. And so Father Hardin was able to put the ribbon on the medal, and they put it around the boy, and he held up the prayer. The father held up the prayer for Father Hardin to read. And as he read the prayer, the boy woke up out of a coma and said, "Ma, I want some ice cream." And so the whole story is in the book, but just quickly, it was an amazing, real miracle that he experienced. And he said he wasn't the medal-wearing kind of guy prior to that. He didn't, but then he spent the rest of his time talking about the miraculous medal.
Yeah. Well, we have to, Donna, we're running
Yes.
out of time here, but we have to just mention that conversion of
Alphonse Ratisbon.
Right.
Okay, shortly, a few years, like 9 years or so after the medals came out, something around there, it's all in the book, this a Jewish banker and very well known in political circles and financial circles, he hated the church. And so real quickly, he hated the church, but he took a trip. And during that trip, he came upon a friend and who, in a last-ditch effort to try to convert him, showed him a miraculous medal and said, "Why don't you wear this and pray the Memorare prayer? Here, write the prayer down."
Yeah. We're going to have to take a quick.
Sure.
We're going to have to stop here, Donna.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Sorry, it's a beautiful story. Yeah. Okay. Read the book. It's all there. But let us pray. Almighty God, thank you for all your gifts, especially the gift of the miraculous medal to your people. And God bless you. Well, we come to that moment now at the end of the program when we make our appeal. Okay, and. You know, the wonderful story that Donna has been sharing, all of her work that she's doing in evangelization, but especially the story of the miraculous medal, which really needs to go far and wide. We need to be reminded of this great devotion, this great source, as we entitled the program, Mary, the Miraculous Medal, Mary's Channel of Grace. People need to know about it. And EWTN is one of the great means of spreading the message of God's love and the means of salvation in the world today. So please support EWTN, your prayers, but especially your financial contributions. As Mother always said, put your donation as generous as you can make it between your telephone bill and your electric bill. Thank you so much for all you do. And God bless all of you. God's peace be with you.